Hey guys, hope you're having a good day. Market obviously a little bit scary lately. I talked about this on the weekend about 4 or 5 things that were really starting to worry me. If any of you saw that video, one of my members in the community said that after he saw that video, he said he watched it, or yeah, he watched it at the gym while he was working out, and he said he got out of almost all of his stocks. It saved him a fortune. So that's a nice story as well. I wish I did as well as that, but definitely took off a ton of risk. We added some shorts in Tesla, AVGO. We have some VIX plays as well. So worked out really well. I see people in other discords selling puts into this crap, into terrible looking charts. I explained very clearly that if we got below 6,000, we were going to move out of that silo of support from a gamma standpoint. And it was all in the tells. The VIX skew was going bananas. This market was poised for something terrible. The breath was already bad. So, okay, so I'm not here to basically tell you I told you so. So anyway, hopefully some of you paid attention and adjusted your positions. Basically, I've sold a few puts. I've got some in Nvidia. We're up money on that. We've sold some in Meta, which we're just about even on, maybe down small. I think these are some of the names that maybe we can kind of hide in a little bit. I think Apple could be another name like that. Maybe even Microsoft. I think even though the RSP, which is the equal weight S&P, has come off so much, it's gotten completely slaughtered. I think MAG is still kind of an interesting place to be. So I'm a little on the fence as to whether you can shift back into broader market, because it really looks like there's a possibility that interest rates might even go up next year. I know that's kind of sounds a little bit nuts, but it is possible because the Fed is now suddenly very dual mandate again. Remember August when they raised rates and I said they're completely insane? Well, they were, and so here we are they're going to have to undo that at some point, probably, even though they put in that brave face the other day at FOMC and cut. They had a lot of dissension in the ranks there. People who said, governors who said, no, I do not want to cut rates. So we're back to this Fed kind of dual mandate where inflation was supposedly conquered in August, which was rubbish, but they thought that they were going to focus on the labor market. Now they're back to really caring about both, and maybe even inflation being the sort of focus again. So what are the things that can go wrong? Well, we've got Trump, we've got all kinds of things that come along with that. There was this sort of massive honeymoon on the Trump win that everybody thought was positive, and it is in a lot of ways. Just a reminder, everyone, of the disclaimer. So anything we talk about today is for educational, entertainment, and information purposes only. But, tariffs are going to be inflationary. His immigration policies, that's going to be inflationary. His tax cut stuff isn't going to come till later. So think of tariffs and some of these other things as front loaded. These are negative things that are front loaded for us coming next year. The tax cut stuff may not happen till later. So we sort of get more negatives than we get positives. Yes, there's regulation, all this stuff. So it's very pro, growth. He's very pro stock market. So I'm not getting bearish. I almost never do. Although this past weekend I said, man, this is not looking good. So I think there's a lot of positives, but there's also a lot of potential for volatility, because when you introduce various forms of uncertainty, kind of like the cat in the room full of rocking chairs, if you keep adding those rocking chairs, the cat gets a little bit more nervous every time. And so we've got some really kind of questionable sort of outlooks. And I think the market doesn't like uncertainty. That is not a new saying. We've known that for a long time. So I think we're going into inauguration, and what it really means to have this administration and the sea changes that come with that, because there's a good possibility that maybe we're red for quite a number of terms, potentially. I mean, I know that's a bit of a stretch to say that, but it could be sort of a red kind of situation for a long time to come. And we have to really figure out where those opportunities are. So I'm looking for lots of opportunities. We talk about them all the time in the community. We've been doing fantastic in there, as other people I'm seeing are getting really hurt. And that's really just, if you don't have the ability to pivot and read the signs like I had in my video, then you're really not doing this right, because you can't expect things to just kind of go in one direction all the time. Although low vol markets can stay low vol for long periods of time, there's no question about it, and I'll be the first to admit that. But here we are. We've got volatility. We're in a sort of neutral to potentially negative gamma type area in the market. And what that means is when I always show you those kind of nice, sweet green boxes of support, we are no longer in one of those. So unless we can recapture 6,000, I think there's a chance of that happening. Maybe we start to recover by the end of OPEX here, this option expiry, which is an absolutely massive one, biggest of all time. Maybe we get into a low liquidity lift again, right? So next week, hopefully that we don't have those sparks like FOMC that get us to go down. We're going to have to watch Bitcoin here. It's coming off pretty good. And that's why I don't have any exposure in that area. I do have a little bit of hood, but I don't have a ton of exposure in that area just because I see that as sort of more risk off, right? So why, what happens when things get kind of ugly, people have to sort of raise money wherever they've made money. And that could be in MAG, it could be in Bitcoin where they've done well. I'm not bearish on Bitcoin, but I'm just saying sometimes it's a time to sort of sit on your hands and just kind of go, let's take a look at what's happening here. Let's look at MSTR volatility. So if any of you have been watching my videos, I've been saying, listen, I think at some point there's going to be an opportunity to go long volatility. I did not do it. I did take off some short volatility the other day in coin, which saved me a massive amount of money because I saw things that were making me nervous. So that was a good thing. I did not go long, but we're seeing volatility pop today. We've gone from around 100 implied vol, or sorry, we've gone from around 105 implied vol, 106, up to maybe 112. So we're kind of jumping up, which is unusual. When you see these things pull back, usually volatility drops because that's typically not how they really work. They're not like your typical stock. They are defensive, kind of more speculative type things, and they are reflected. That volatility gets reflected higher in sort of a run up in these assets, not on the way down. But because the sell-off is getting more severe, and we've got a VIX of 23, that is all kind of like bleeding into and spilling into this complex as well. So we have a little bit of a pop there. But one thing that's very interesting is we're starting to see a little bit of steepening to the downside. This is what I want to see in this area, right? I want to see those puts start to push up relative to the calls and relative to the at the money so that I can feel like there's a little bit of panic going on to the downside. What did we see when they went up? When these things went up, I'll show you right here. This is what happened, right? We saw call skew explode higher. That's what you see in this part of the chart. This is where, they didn't see it coming after the election, and then call skew exploded, which was a sign of exhaustion. I said that in my video. I said this could be a sign of exhaustion, which it was. We've pulled back, we did a little dipsy doodle, then we rallied again after we got close to this zero line. What does the zero line mean? It means where calls and puts are roughly equally priced from an implied volatility standpoint, right? So basically, you're saying there's no kind of view. Now, if the natural tendency in here is to have upside call skew, then flat sort of does mean something, right? There isn't as much kind of exuberance to the upside. But what I like to see is I'd like to see this get back to the zero line. So look where we were. We were way down here where calls were very expensive again. And that's when I came out and I had a video that said, let's do covered calls in this thing. The vol's really, really too high. And I don't think Bitcoin's getting far past 100 grand. And I continue to be right on that for 3 weeks now. I've been saying that's going to probably stick around 100 grand, between 90 and 106, 107 is what I said. So we had that nice call skew for people who really want to own something like STR. You're just getting paid a massive amount of money. I did a video on that specifically. I said you're getting tons and tons of cash in your jeans to do some covered calls if you want to own this thing. Then it kind of unraveled a little bit, but we're getting this again. Look, and what this is the calls are not as expensive as the puts on a relative basis as we come down. Why is that? Well, the puts are pushing up and the calls are getting cheaper, right? So look what happened yesterday. Yesterday, we had this very expensive upside call skew. Not super expensive, but pretty expensive, right? So now that's coming down. We're much flatter to the upside. And we're getting a little bit more worried about the downside because they're pushing that up. So what I'd like to see is maybe a final flush so that we see this put skew actually start to explode a little bit to the upside. That could give me reason to start to get to feel like there could be a bottom in there, right? That put skew is reflecting people getting a little bit panicky to the downside. That's where you might be able to get in there, sell a put spread, sell a put, get some nice juicy volatility, because we're probably going to see this vol move up again in an extension of this panic. And we're going to see that put skew really jam up there, right? So you can maybe sell some 200, some 225, something like that. Not advice, but that's kind of the line I would be looking at in order to kind of pick a bottom in this area. Unless you think Bitcoin's going back to 70 grand, then MSTR is really, really screwed. So this is where we sit on this thing. It's where we sit on a lot of things. I'm seeing the SPY basically giving up all of its gains right now. I bought some Broadcom puts this morning. I'm looking for further downside there, and I'm really not getting aggressive on the long side. There's really no reason to. We've come off a market of massive numbers of parabolas. Look around. Look at every chart. Parabolic all over the place. And I don't think that necessarily unwinds in one day. So maybe we have a little bit of work to do. And then perhaps next week we start to get a bit of that Santa rally, and we look for opportunities to kind of press down on VIX. And I think there are ways to do that we're going to talk about in the community, and I may do a video on that as well. But this is your chance to jump in the community. Actually, tonight I've got a free webinar talking about my program, my course, my full system with guardrails and rules to be able to be an effective option seller, but the smart way. You're not going to see this stuff anywhere. I'm 99% sure of it. So I want everybody to show up, check it out. It's going to be fantastic. Let me check the link right here. What is it? What is my link? I should have been ready with the link. It is going to be crushthepremium.com/web special. Okay. So this is it right here. We're going to have a really great offer at the end for all sorts of great stuff. So crushthepremium.com/web class special. And that is going to get you into this terrific offer. I hope for any of you who haven't done the program yet, you can come by and maybe learn something or reinforce something that you've learned. For anybody interested in it, a great opportunity to really learn some cool things. Whether you sign up or not, I guarantee you're going to learn some cool things. So everyone have a great rest of the day, and we will talk to you soon.